Hello, everyone. This is Becky with Silhouette Life Inspiration Box. I am happy to be guest posting here for Craft Chameleon. So I'm going to take a few minutes and get you up on my phone. That way I can go along with any comments or questions that you have. But in just a few minutes, we are going to cover some really important things in Cricut Design Space. This will be especially helpful if you are new or maybe you've only been working with a couple different types of files, that sort of thing. So definitely something worth watching if you need a few tips. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to comment them on the live and I will do everything I can to answer them for you. Okay, so I got my comments up. So I'm going to try to keep an eye on those. But remember that there is also a delay. So if I don't answer right away, just give me a few minutes to check it out. So, okay, what you're seeing here, this is the Cricut Design Space. Now, they have made it to where you can now download onto your computer. So it's not required to use it through the internet connection anymore. So that's exciting. So if you've been holding off or hem-hawing on using your Cricut, that is definitely a plus that you can add a little tick mark to that they fulfilled that. We've been wanting it for years. This has been a drawback. So anyway, I've downloaded it to my computer, and this is the basic canvas. All right, that's what this is officially called. And the first thing that we are going to talk about, because this is something that you'll use very often, especially when you're purchasing your blanks or downloading your freebies from Craft Chameleon, is that we're going to download and import SVG files. So when you first open it, you may have a window here where you can see projects you've saved or projects that are available. Okay, so what we would do is we would create a new project. Now I already had a canvas open, so it asked me if I wanted to replace, and I didn't have anything on it, so that part didn't matter to me. But once I'm in here, I can go to upload, and now this shows me recent images that I've uploaded, right? But under here, I'm going to click upload image, and it'll give you all the file types that you can use here, okay? And then also, once I click upload image, it repeats them for me here again. Now, what we're going to focus on, what's most useful for us, and you can see that there are, right here under the file types, I'm going to open the SVG. Now, if you missed it, this was a file that we created and used over at the Craft Along TV page. So you can see what we did with it there. But for our purposes, we're going to use that file again here. So I will click on it and I will hit open. Now it gives me a little preview here of what it's going to look like. I can also go ahead and list tags if I want to, and that will make it easier for me to search and find this later if I need to. I've already uploaded it once, so I'm just going to do a quick upload here, and I'm just going to hit save down here at the bottom. And now it's here in my recently uploaded images. I can click on that, and here at the bottom, I can hit insert image. Okay, now you'll notice that this design came in with a rather small size. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is sizing or setting up your design. Okay, now if you're using a file from Craft Chameleon, there will be a document in your folder that will tell you what size you need to make it to fit the blank that you have purchased. So keep that in mind. If you're using a file that's meant to fit an exact blank, like a dog or a paw print or anything like that, then make sure if you're using Design Space that you find that file, and it will give you the dimensions. But if not, say, for example, I was using this for a tote bag, and I want to size it correctly to fit my tote bag. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is, you notice that I have a ruler along the top and also along the side. They give me my size. And down here at the bottom, this took me a while to find. Down here at the bottom is, I can zoom in or zoom out. And you'll notice my ruler gets longer. Okay, so I'll stay at 50%. And for a tote bag, I measured my tote bag and it was 14 inches by 14 inches. So what I'm going to do for a standard tote bag, and don't get me wrong, Cricut has templates, but what I like to do is measure my blank myself and size it myself. So I can come over here and go to shapes, and I can select, now my tote bag is square, so I will start with a square. And then using this little directional arrow by hand, if I want to, I can make this as large or small as I need. What I like to do is I like to use up here the size feature, and I can actually, I just double clicked on that and I can type in 14 by 14. Now say I was working with something that was 14 by 12. I would then want to unlock my little proportions here, and I can then type that into 12. Okay, but that's not what I want to do because my bag is 14 by 14. Now I can change the color of this square. The color of it does not actually matter. So I can change it to a lighter color if I want. We'll do a lighter gray. I'm only using this box so that I can see what size I need to make my file. Okay, now you'll notice, because I brought this in first, if I slide it over, it goes underneath my square. I don't want that. So I can come up here to arrange and click send to front. And now it moves my file on top of my square. And then I can make this whatever size I want. Now keep in mind that with my Cricut, I can only cut files that are as wide as 11.5 inches, because that's what's going to fit in a cut area on my 12 by 12 mat. So I can come back up here, I'm going to cheat, and I will say 11.5. So that is the largest that I can make. And you know, for a 14 by 14 tote bag, that is a really good size. So that's what I'm going to stick with. And now that I have it sized, I can delete this square and just click on it, click the delete button, and it goes away like it never existed. Okay, so I'm going to pause just for a few minutes and kind of let you get caught up with that. Let me know if you have any questions about how we imported the SVG, how we created the square, why we created the square, anything like that, okay? But basically, we imported it, we're sizing it to fit on that tote bag so that we know when I cut this out that I'm going to be happy with the size that I have created and cut, right? Okay, so with that in mind, let's take a look over here on the right-hand side. If you can follow my mouse, there is one group right here that's undercut, and then over here where it says the adopt don't shop, it broke down my paw print into all these different shapes. Now if I were to cut this exactly how it is, let me show you what's going to happen. If I click on make it, it keeps my adopt don't shop, but if you look at my paw print, it broke it up. Now depending on what material I'm working with, that may or may not be okay. If I was layering 2 different colors of heat transfer vinyl, I don't really want to have to mess with cutting and weeding these and then placing them where they need to go. Okay, now you notice because this is longer than 12 inches, it also warned me that I'm using an image that's larger than 11.5 and that they changed my cut mat to be longer. So this is a 12 by 24 cut mat. So I can just hit OK. But I want to go back and I want to switch this to where it stays together. Okay, so I'm going to click on my top up here and go back to my canvas. Okay, now if I move this, you notice it's still grouped together. So I can ungroup. I right-clicked to access my shortcut menu, ungroup. And now if I move one or the other, they separate. So what I want to do is I want to select my paw print here, and I want to attach those pieces together. Down here, the bottom right-hand side, if I click on attach, they are all attached together. Now, when I click over to make it, it didn't affect my adopt don't shop, but when I click on my paw print, it now stays together. And that's really what I needed it to do. Click on cancel, go back to my canvas. So if I wanted to cut this, then this is set up exactly how I'd want to do it. Now, if I wanted to use heat transfer vinyl, don't forget this is where you would mirror it, and Design Space would mirror it for you. Okay, so that is really useful. And then let's also talk about using the contour. Okay, so I imported this, and maybe there was a part of this file that I didn't need. Okay, so I can right click and see how it doesn't let me ungroup. That's because when I set up this file, I made it all one compound path. Okay, so I can't ungroup it because Cricut has recognized that I've made this one whole file. But what I can do is I can come in here on the right bottom and click on contour. And again, I'm going to zoom out because I want to be able to see my file. I am able to select and deselect pieces that I don't want to cut. So for example, say I wanted to not worry about this paw print because I only want the blue paw print. I can click on each individual piece and see how they turn to a light gray. Oops, I keep hitting those wrong. There we go. Okay, now if I hit the X, well, then that just leaves it to where I have the blue paw print and the middle of this is empty. So it took me a while to learn that, but that is what the contour is for when you have a file that is set up that you are not able to ungroup it. And that's really useful. And I'm not overall changing the file. So if I decided that I didn't like that, then I would be able to come back to contour and I can just zoom back out. And I can reselect these pieces, as many or as few as I want. So in this situation, I would just be able to cut this all together in one solid color, and I wouldn't have to worry about the blue paw print because this one is already set up for me. So that's just something that you can do in the software. And another thing I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and delete these off of my workspace. I want to talk about, that was an SVG file, but a lot of times a file that you may want to work with is a PNG file, right? Or a JPEG file, basically an image file, okay? Remember that we can use a JPEG, a GIF, a PNG, a BMP, SVG, or DXF. Any of those I can upload and use in Cricut Design Space. So I'm actually going to use the same image. Let me see, but I have it here as a PNG. And you'll notice that when I pull it in, I have a white background. Now there are options that you have as far as being able to use simple, moderately complex, or complex. And don't be scared to choose which ones you want to do. If I click on simple, then it takes my background out. If I click on moderately complex, it will do more with if I have a good contrast. And then complex is for fine details or low contrast. Okay, so just for this example, I'm going to go ahead and choose complex. And when I hit continue, I'm then able to come in and edit this before I finish importing it into Cricut Design Space. Let me see if I zoom out. Okay, if it ever looks white, just zoom out because that's what's going on here. And you'll notice here's my white background, and if I click on that, it will turn transparent. And each place that I have a white background, I want to click on with my mouse, slide down, click, 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 click. Okay. So basically, and see everywhere that I see the checkered background, that means that it's transparent. Okay, so I'll hit continue. And now it'll show me if I want to do save as a print then cut, or just save as a cut. Now I do want to point out that I did not click the inside of the paw print, which means that it's picking that up as an image, and that's okay. It just means that when I come over here, if I click just save as a cut image, my paw print is going to be solid, not two-tone. Okay, so if I wasn't happy with that, I could choose back, and it will take me back to my image. And then if I wanted to, I could take out the inside of the paw prints. So, you know, if it's something that you're not sure if you're happy with or not, you can try it both ways before you get to the final project. Okay, so there we go. Now, in this case, a print and cut versus a cut doesn't look like a whole lot of difference. I'm just going to select the cut image because I don't want to do this as a print and cut, and I can hit save. And now, if I click on it here, my recently uploaded images, I can insert it. And it's a little on the large side, so I'll make it 11.5, just like I did the other one. But basically, that's the same result as we got from the SVG. Now, given the option, if you have an SVG file, go ahead and use it because it's already going to be set up. You'll be able to group it. SVG is a very versatile type of file that you don't have to do a lot of modifying to because it's meant to be used with you know, these types of softwares and these types of machines. If you do not have an SVG, the next I would look for is a DXF because it's also going to be set up to where you don't have to go in and take out the background. But if you're working with an image, maybe that you have purchased as clipart, or you've been able to find it on a free clipart website, then you can come in here, or maybe you do have an image that you want to use for a print and cut. You can take out that background so that it's able to cut your individual pieces. Maybe you're using printable vinyl or printable HTV. You want to take out the background so that it'll pick up where your file needs to cut, but maybe you have filled in your paw print with rainbow stripes or something along those lines. So there are reasons why you would want to use a PNG. But for the most part, when you're cutting vinyl or HTV, then using the SVG or the DXF file are perfectly acceptable. Now I am going to click over. I'm not seeing any questions or any comments, which is completely fine, but don't be shy. Feel free to ask them. I am going to jump over to the other page that I am live on, Silhouette Life Inspiration Box, and I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any comments or questions by being live on both places at the same time. So give me just 1 second. Well, I do have a comment. It says, Nita Field says, hi. So hi, Nita. I actually need to get with you later, but you know, we won't talk about that on the live. Okay, so that's all I see, and that's completely fine. Like I said, if you're catching this on the replay, then don't be afraid to comment. I will try to come back and check it here in a couple days and make sure I answer any questions. Or I will be doing, just so that you know, I'll be doing software tutorials for Cricut Design Space every Monday for both Craft Chameleon and for Silhouette Life Inspiration Box. Don't forget, I know the name fools you, but you can also subscribe. The Silhouette Life Inspiration Box supports both Cricut and Silhouette users, so just a little plug there. But I'll be doing software in Cricut every Monday, and then I will be revisiting the same types of topics in Silhouette Studio every Wednesday. And hopefully this should correspond with other projects that we're doing either in live videos or perhaps with the subscription box. So you'll get a taste of some of the things we have going on. I know a couple of you guys are getting a little stir crazy. So we're trying to bring you, as much fun goodness as we can. Okay, so while we're talking about it, don't forget that when we're talking about looking for SVG files, you are able to create your own. Okay, and I won't go a whole lot in depth on doing this, but maybe we will revisit this next week. Make sure that you put in the comments if there's anything you want to see next week. But for example, if this was a file that I wanted to create myself, it's actually pretty darn easy. This paw print was a royalty-free clip art that I was able to download. So that really helped me out. And the rest of this is text. And Cricut Design Space makes it really easy to curve that text. So if you haven't done that yet, let's talk about how to do it. I can do, let's see, adopt. And I'm going to move it out here just so that you can see them side by side. Let's see, let's move that down a little bit. All right, adopt. And do I remember the name of that font? I probably don't. Let's just choose one. Or what if we choose this one? Because everybody likes different fonts, and there's nothing wrong with changing it up a little bit. It's going to take a little bit to update, probably because I'm live and using it. All right, there we go. So now if you look up here, you guys have a curve. And I can choose just to curve it down a little bit. Now I could do the same thing with Don't Shop. Okay, make it a little bit bigger. And come up here to the curve. Oops, wrong way. There we go. Okay, now once I curve, it kind of makes this font look like it needs to be a little closer together. You can do that too. You have a letter space that you can make your letters closer together, because sometimes I can get lost on the curve. Okay, now if you'll notice, you see how we have these two files here. Let me delete this just so that I can show you. But I have these two that I've just created, but when I click over to make it, see how it splits them up? So don't forget that that's a prime example of when I would want to select both of those. And all I did was click on my mouse and hold it down, select both files, and then I would come down here and hit attach. And when I come back to make it, see, it keeps them together and spaced out properly. Now there are situations when you wouldn't care if you attached or not. So, Cricut Design Space is trying to save you space on your vinyl. It's trying to be more cost effective by splitting them up and being really conservative with your vinyl. And that's fine if that's your style of crafting, especially if I'm working with adhesive vinyl. I don't worry about wasting the vinyl too much, not because I'm wasteful, but because if you look at the price versus the amount of time I would spend piecing those back together individually, it's just not worth it. Now, if I'm using a pretty pattern adhesive vinyl, I might rethink that, or especially pattern HTV, because it does hurt my feelings a little bit to use those wastefully. So that would be different situations when you would want to attach or detach. All right, well, those are the basics, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit today. And again, I know I've said it probably a dozen times, but please post your questions if you have any, or if you have any feedback or anything that you want to see next week. And I will definitely make a note of it and see if that is something that we can work in. So I'm going to let you go for now. I've taken up, let me see, about 24 minutes of your time. Sorry I didn't make it longer, but hopefully short and sweet will work for you guys tonight. And I will be back. Don't forget Wednesday if you guys are working in Silhouette Studio, or if you think you would like to work in Silhouette Studio. It does have a few more free features than Cricut Design Space, so don't be afraid. You can download a free copy and join us again on Wednesday at 7 o'clock on both the Craft Chameleon Facebook page and the Silhouette Life Inspiration Box Facebook page. Tomorrow, Jamie will be here. I'm going to start doing Mondays and Wednesdays, and she is going to do Tuesdays and Fridays, again, on both pages. We're teaming up here. And then on Thursdays, if you haven't heard already, on Thursdays, we are doing the Facebook live videos. There are 4 of us. It is myself, Jamie, Andrea from My Very Crafty Life, and Lisa Potts from Lisa Pot Designs. So we basically have something for you every day of the week. And, whatever you want to see, just let us know and we will work it out. So, all right, I'm going to stop rambling. Y'all have a good night. Stay home and stay safe. And we'll see you next time.